Tonight, why there's new fears about lead levels in Port Pirie's air and a number of teenagers arrested for break-ins across the region.
From our Sevens Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Casey Treelaw begins now.
Good evening. A damning report has found that Port Pirie's lead smelter needs to drastically cut emissions by 80%. It comes with the revelation that local children are exposed to the highest levels of toxic airborne lead and sulphur dioxide in Australia.
The debate surrounding airborne toxins in Port Pirie has heated up, following the release of an independent report into the effects of lead and sulphur dioxide.
Anybody may well end up having to present in emergency departments for illnesses or issues such as asthma, bronchitis and upper respiratory tract infections.
Mark Taylor, the leader behind the study, says it's time to ratify the national guidelines for lead in the air, and the accepted cap of 0.50 micrograms per cubic metre is inadequate.
The national standard, which is used in Port Pirie and it's used elsewhere in Australia, is too high to properly protect children.
The report has called for emissions to be dropped by 80% to ensure that levels stay below the national intervention threshold. Despite the report's criticisms, readings from this quarter's EPA's air results have been favourable, with emissions dropping by 0.4 here on Oliver Street. The EPA remains confident going into the future, saying changes won't occur overnight and that we have to wait and see gradual improvements.
We can expect to see continuing improvements. It's going to take several months to see improvements to levels that we're happier with.
Dominic Beaton, Sevens Spencer Golf News.
Port Lincoln Police charged 2 people for drug offences in North Shields yesterday. Officers allegedly located a total of 14 cannabis plants and a further 2 kilograms of dried cannabis. A 40-year-old woman and a 51-year-old man, both from North Shields, were reported for cultivating a trafficable amount of the illicit substance. They'll be due to appear in court at a later date. Meanwhile, a Port Lincoln teenager has been arrested over an attempted robbery at a service station over the weekend. Just before 11 p.m. on Sunday, the male allegedly entered the station on Hallett Place armed with a pole. Police say the teenager allegedly threatened the service attendant, demanding money before running off empty-handed towards Centenary Oval. Thankfully, no one was injured. The 16-year-old was later arrested and charged with attempted robbery. And over in Port Augusta, police have arrested a teenager following a recent spate of break-ins around the Willesden area. Authorities allege the 16-year-old broke into 3 houses near Holder Avenue between last Friday and this morning. A search of the offender's address uncovered property allegedly stolen from the break-ins. He's been charged with a string of offences, including serious criminal trespass and theft, and was refused police bail. The future of grain transport on the Lower Eyre Peninsula has been outlined in the government's highly anticipated freight strategy, but the opposition says it's too little, too late.
It's the long-awaited report that's finally been released. The Eyre Peninsula Freight Strategy, a document detailing the potential steps and investment decisions into grain transport across the region.
We've now seen the recommendations in that report, and they are saying that maintaining our rail network on Eyre Peninsula is an optimum outcome.
However, that's no longer an option, with Viterra deciding to pull rail from its transport options. And now the state government's gone down a different path with a planned $100 million investment into local roads. A decision it believes is the best option to cater for future freight movements.
The most recent announcements is for around $25 million. To go into the roads here on Lower Eyre Peninsula. Now, it's going to take all of that and more.
How much more? Well, according to the report, road upgrades would have a price tag of $90 million.
What the report talks about is Port Lincoln needing $10 million by 2020 and another $10 million by 2030 just for what's happening in Port Lincoln.
Many raising concerns of what increased truck movements will have for road safety.
Safety is always an issue, and my position is that a wider road is a safer road.
There will be a higher number of fatalities and crashes, especially in and around Port Lincoln.
A date is yet not confirmed when the upgrades will begin. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A 20-year-old man has lost his driver's licence for 6 months after being caught drink driving in Port Pirie. In the early hours of Sunday, local police pulled over his vehicle on the terrace, where the man allegedly blew a reading of .081. His vehicle has been impounded for 28 days. He'll appear in the Port Pirie Magistrates Court at a later date. Port Augusta Council says it's disappointed it wasn't contacted by Solar Reserve before it decided to stop plans for a $500 million solar thermal plant. The council now calling for a meeting with the company to discuss where it all went wrong.
It gave the town a reason to be excited and optimistic, but the collapse of a $650 million solar thermal plant has meant those feelings have now turned to disappointment for local leaders.
It's a great boost in the arm for our community and our region, so the news is very sad.
Friday's announcement that Solar Reserve could not raise the funds required to start the project, coming as a complete shock to the local council.
Solar Reserve have not communicated myself or with the council advising on their situation or why this has occurred.
Council says it first heard about the project's failure through the media, and it's now calling for the US-based company to meet with them and offer a please explain.
We need to have that meeting and understand their concerns and their processes where this didn't occur.
Port Augusta Mayor Brett Benbow isn't the only leader that saw the potential in the solar thermal plant. Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young says it was destined to be a world leader in the technology. She's now started an online petition to make the energy project publicly owned.
The very least that the federal and state governments could do is to put more public money on the table to create jobs and innovation here in our state.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meanwhile, Port Augusta Council says it could impose fines on 3 big supermarket chains if they refuse to pay their share of the cost to remove submerged shopping trolleys from local waters. The clean-up operation began last November, but after significant delays, the total cost has blown out to $40,000. Coles, Woolworths and Big W originally agreed to pay 90% of the costs. Negotiations are expected to take place this week. Broken Hill's Mayor says she's excited to work with the newly elected member for Barwon. It comes despite Daria Turley having her hat in the ring as the Labor candidate for the seat at the recent New South Wales state election.
The campaigning is over, it's back to full-time mayoral duties.
Going forward, the mayoral hat's back on, fighting for our community, working with the Shooters Party and the National Party about the best outcome.
Daria Turley finished 3rd in the race for Barwon, flying the Labor Party flag. As the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Roy Butler prepares to be sworn in, Miss Turley says there's no negativity between the two.
During the campaign, Roy and I had a very respectful relationship. In fact, we met several times. Roy's been over to my place.
As the face of the City Council, Miss Turley has highlighted some priorities for Broken Hill, including an upgrade of the local airport and the community cultural hub.
We want a ring road to get the trucks out of Argent Street, where there are many things that we want. So we have said this is where we want the funding, this is where we see the future of Broken Hill goes.
Mr Butler has already made multiple visits to the Silver City during his campaign. The invitation to a local council meeting to introduce himself has been sent, the Mayor hoping for an RSVP.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of opportunity, and the best bit for us is that we have always said we want a positive, open relationship, and that's what we'll be working towards.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, excitement for mining projects near Broken Hill, and the Adelaide Thunderbirds inspire the next generation. Hello again. A mining company with projects near Broken Hill says it's excited to see what the coming months hold, with Havilah Resources continuing to press ahead with its iron ore and copper investments.
Drilling down and coming up with the goods.
Plenty happening between now and the end of the year. And we hope that we can kick a couple of goals amongst that lot.
The start of 2019 has been positive for Havilah Resources. Development work at its Grants Iron Ore project west of Broken Hill has yielded productive results.
Come out with an exploration target for that iron ore deposit, and it's very large. It's about 3.5 billion tonnes at 24 to 28% iron.
The conceptual target is based on drilling funded and conducted by Simec Mining. It's part of their look at the commercialisation of Havilar's 2 iron ore projects. In addition to the iron ore investments, the Explorer has also sold the Porsche mining lease to Consolidated Mining and Civil. This allows it to focus on its copper, cobalt, gold projects in Mutooroo and Kalkaroo.
We're doing some more metallurgical work and other work there to try and answer a few questions, improving the gold recoveries and hopefully improving the economics of the project.
Mr Giles says the project's close proximity to Broken Hill would be beneficial.
You know, we could have a drive-in, drive-out type situation at any mining operations and have a very good service out of Broken Hill.
Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Landowners across regional South Australia will be required to destroy all feral deer on their properties in a bid to combat the rising numbers across the state. The new state government plan is hoped to stall the record high numbers of the deer population, now at more than 10,000. Deer have been spotted in the Mid-North and Eyre Peninsula regions, and farmers say the feral animals destroy fences and native flora while also impacting wildlife. It was all smiles at the netball courts in Port Lincoln yesterday as 80 excited young girls participated in a sports clinic run by the Adelaide Thunderbirds. The annual event aims at developing stronger links with regional sporting communities.
Thunderbirds are go as members from the Adelaide netball team visited Port Lincoln yesterday as part of the Homestart training clinic.
So excited. It's going to be a really fun day. I know the weather doesn't look too good at the moment, but we're praying that it's going to turn around so these girls can get out there and play some netball.
Luckily the weather cleared and the game was on, as 80 young netballers from across the Eyre Peninsula learnt some professional skills from their idols.
It was pretty fun. They had a good laugh with us and all.
Well, they're really great and I really want to be as great as them.
The Adelaide Thunderbirds returning to the Eyre Peninsula for another year to teach their skills to the next generation.
To have fun and learn some new skills. Obviously with Kate being a defender and me being a shooter, we can offer 2 different things, and then we've got some help of community coaches today, so it's really exciting and just getting some exposure for the girls out here.
The players say it's important they visit regional communities that often support them.
I think it's just exciting that the girls get a chance to see us and we don't have to be in Adelaide, that we get the opportunity to come to Port Lincoln.
Goal shooter Sasha Glasgow knowing what it means to grow up in a regional town.
So I'm from the Yorke Peninsula myself, so being a regional girl, I think it's really important that it doesn't matter where you are, like if you love netting and you keep having fun, you're going to get there.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
More than 100 Whyalla schoolgirls took part in the BHP Crows Cup today. Local primary schools playing each other in a round-robin format. BHP's Emily Perry saying the event helps the girls pursue their sporting dreams.
If they enjoy playing footy, there's actually a pathway for them to do that, and that we're able to help play a role in that is something we just absolutely love.
Dual AFLW Premiership winner Anne Hatchard was a keen observer. The Crows midfielder says the sport is fast becoming a game for everyone.
You know, when I ask what they love most about it, it's always that they get to tackle and, you know, they get to kick the footy, so that's awesome.
It's hoped the event will lead to an eventual local female league. Stay with us after the break, a wrap-up of all the latest sports results, and we'll have the weather details with Britt. Welcome back. Turning to sport now, and Whyalla Netball returned for the 2019 season over the weekend. Last year's premiers, Kiwis started the season in style with a big win over Ravens. John Hunt has the details.
Kiwi came from nowhere to win last year's flag, ending the dominance of Warriors and True Blue. They entered round 1 of 2019, hoping to have a positive start to their premiership defence. And that's what they did, cruising to a comfortable win over Ravens. Warriors were too strong for Rapina, while YCW recorded their first A-grade win since 2017, edging True Blue 50-41. Over on the Yorke Peninsula, Butte defeated Kadina, Baskerville had a win over Moonta by the narrowest of margins, and Wallaroo defeated Cougars in a thriller. Soccer now, and it's the final stages of the Whyalla League Cup. Wanderers tuned up for the final with a massive 8 18-1 win over struggling Croatia, while Lions recorded a 2-0 win over Westlands to dent their finals hopes. And Northern Demons are 7th in State League 2 after a comfortable win over Adelaide University. Turning to softball now, and Whyalla has won the Division 2 State Premiership, defeating Mount Gambier 7-0 in the final to win the competition undefeated. And in Broken Hill tennis, drop shots were too good for Swallows. Top spins and backhand shared the points in a rare tie. The serves defeated the forehands, and the volleys easily accounted for the smashes. So that's all for this week. Footy tips are back on Friday, and we'll have all the scores and results next Monday and Tuesday.
Thanks, John. And time to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Britt.
Thanks, Casey. We've had another mild and partly cloudy day. Port Augusta and Broken Hill both reached a top of 21, Whyalla 20, Port Lincoln and Adelaide both 19, Port Pirie with some showers and 22. A high pressure system became established south of the Bight today and will move slowly towards the east through the week. On the waters, easterly winds at up to 15 knots, seas at 2 metres and sunrise is due at 6:37 a.m. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, Port Augusta 23, Whyalla 21, Port Lincoln cloudy and 20, Coffin Bay showers and 18, Woodner 23, Corn 22, Broken Hill partly cloudy with a max of 20 degrees, Port Pirie 23, Clare and Cleve both 19, Kadina 22. Looking ahead through the week, Port Lincoln with partly cloudy days coming up, Thursday and Saturday with a max of 23, slightly warmer on Friday. Cleve sunny on Thursday with a top of 24, Woodner 27 on Thursday, a top of 30 degrees on Friday. Looking sunny at Whyalla, 24 on Thursday, Friday 28, a similar forecast for Port Augusta, warming up to maximums in the late 20s, Kadina 24 on Thursday. Port Pirie sunny and 25 on Thursday, Friday 28, Clare with sunny days ahead, and finally Broken Hill looking partly cloudy, Thursday 23, Friday and Saturday both with a top of 28. And that's all for today's weather report. Casey, it's back to you.
Thanks for that, Britt, and that's the local news this Tuesday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.